Hi, my name is Chris Brennan, and I'm here at the United Astrology Conference in Chicago this week, where I'm talking to different astrologers and getting a sense for who's giving lectures and what kind of topics are being presented at the conference to get a sense for just what's going on in the community today. So joining me today is Vic DiCara, and you're actually giving a lecture tomorrow, right?
Right.
And you flew all the way in from Japan.
I did.
How was the flight, or how long was the flight?
I get used to it because I live in Japan, so
Sure.
I fly. Flight's like 20 hours, kind of knocks you out.
Yeah. And you've been to, you went to Dennis Harness's conference last year, right? So
Right.
you've been to other astrology conferences?
Right.
Is this the biggest one that you've been to?
This is monumental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be a little overwhelming at first. I think there's like 1,500 astrologers here, so it's kind of a spectacle.
Yeah. You were the one who told me to come.
I did tell you to come. I
Yeah.
did encourage you. There may have been some peer pressure to come over from Japan, and I think you were a little reluctant at first. Are you happy that you made it so far?
Yeah. It's hard for me. I'm not like a social person.
Sure.
I get drained out by social. So if I'm having a good time at the conference, you know it's a really good conference.
Okay. Yeah, that's been part of the conversation I've been having with different people this week, which is, in the age of like YouTube and webinars and online classes, if there's still a value, or what is the value for coming up and meeting in person at places like this, and if the social aspect is still enough to be a draw and to make it worthwhile in the future as things move more and more into the digital age. Do you feel like there is some sort of energy, or there's something about being here in person that makes it worth it?
Yeah. You see, that was one of the talks that I just attended today.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what her name was, but she has black lipstick and the big glasses.
Oh, Priscilla Costello?
No.
No.
Lay something. Anyway, what she was saying was, the talk was about intimacy, problems with intimacy.
Okay.
And she was saying, like, we're in a very mercurial age where everybody's doing a lot of communications through words and all that stuff, and you don't actually get up in front of a person's face and get into their moon space.
Right.
But she said you can't really replace the moon space intimacy with the Mercury intimacy.
Sure.
So that's a thing too. Like, you do YouTube, you do whatever, but we're actually like
Right.
smelling each other right now.
Sure.
It's like different than just talking.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
difference.
And especially in terms of some people build like lifelong connections from just that one time they actually finally met, and there was some sort of magic or something that happened. It does make a difference
Yeah.
in terms of people's interactions.
And I feel like people can fake things too,
Sure.
but when they're in person, it's a lot harder to fake.
Right.
So you really get a sense of like, oh, I know the person now. I met the person. Yeah, they really are a cool dude.
Right.
Or you might like have gotten the wrong impression of them by words.
Right.
People can misunderstand words so easily.
Yeah, it's so easy to misunderstand people online and social media, but when you see people and see their inflection, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So what's your talk that you're giving tomorrow?
Classic misunderstanding topic. The Vedic Astrology with the tropical zodiac. So I'm going to show the role of the sidereal and the tropical systems in Vedic astrology, which everybody thinks is entirely sidereal. So what I want to try to do is, first of all, explain, because I think a lot of times we just get stuck in the wording of the arguments, and we get stuck in like minute details of it without really even understanding the roots, the basic backgrounds of what a sidereal system is and what a tropical system is. Like, one's based on stars, and the other one is based on something else.
Sure.
So going back to that, showing the roots of where they come from. Like, everybody's been measuring the sunlight, the lengths of the days and nights. Everybody's been doing that since the beginning of time.
Sure.
It's not a newer thing.
With the equinoxes and the solstices especially.
Right. Yeah. And that's what the tropical system is based on. Everybody's also been looking at the stars since the beginning of time. So the seeds of both systems are equally ancient, but one of them wasn't usable for a long time because of the calculation, because of the lack of the calculations.
Okay.
So then at a certain point, the calculations enable people to not just do astrology by what they can see, but using your mind's eye to calculate where planets are. Then that enables the use of that 12-fold system, that solar system. But then it becomes, the calculations are not so great. They have to use the, visual checking to make sure the calculations are right. And so they make the star markers that represent the tropical divisions. They have markers for them, reference points to the stars. Well, Spica is supposed to be at such and such a point.
Right.
And then, Hipparchus finds out that it drifts. And then why did India not get on board with everybody else.
Sure.
When they made up their mind that, well, we should stick with the equinoxes. Why did India say, nah, we're going to not. We're going to go with the stars.
Do you feel like it was because of the Nakshatras?
I do. I feel like because they are very preservationist, the Vedic nature is very preservationist. So they didn't even they never abandoned the 27 nakshatras. That's an interesting point. They never restructured their constellations or anything like that. So they kept their 27, and then there's so many interesting things about the way 27, 12, and 108 work together, which are the big numbers in Indian astrology, 108 Navamshas,
Sure.
12 major signs, and then 27. Just, it's fascinating how it accentuates the Gandanta points, and then it puts 4 nakshatra padas, divisions into the nakshatras, which are huge fundamental things in Vedic astrology. The Gandantas and the nakshatra padas are really so important. So I think that they just loved the way the nakshatras worked with their system, and they didn't want to split it up. But there's good evidence in Varaha Mihira, in Panchasiddhantika and Brihat Samhita, that he's saying, like, it's kind of weird. These equinoxes are moving, and we're not changing our system.
Sure.
So there was also, like, just as there was some contention in the Hellenistic, or I don't know if I'm using the right word, world, or like, which way should we go?
Sure, yeah.
There was that contention also in India, but where they wound up all going tropical elsewhere in the world, in India, the contention resolved to, now let's do it sidereal.
Right.
But then, of course, now there's people like me and others who are saying, hey, we don't have to keep doing it this way.
Sure.
Which I think is an interesting thing for a conference like this, where there's Vedic and Western people together. Because if you take the sidereal zodiac out of Western astrology, then all of a sudden it's almost exactly like Hellenistic astrology.
Sure.
So it's a lot more accessible. And then these nakshatras become more interesting. They're like fixed stars, but they're not just a star. It's like a fixed star field.
Right, like a range of degrees around that fixed star.
Yeah, and I think people can grasp that pretty easy because they know, Western astrologers can grasp that pretty easy because they know fixed stars. And then they can all of a sudden say, hey, maybe I can use these nakshatras, because the nakshatras are amazing. They have amazing symbolisms.
Right. So it actually makes the use of the tropical zodiac, then you would argue, in Indian astrology actually makes Indian astrology more approachable, so that you can get to the oldest ancient Indian astrology, which is the nakshatras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it makes it more approachable, which is an interesting thing for a conference like this. But ultimately, I just think it's more real because the Vedic definitions of the tropicals, of the zodiac, the 12-fold thing, it's undeniably tropical. They're saying things like, you have the equinoxes are one diameter, and you have the solstices are another diameter, and you split each one into 3 parts, and you get the 12. And it's just spelled out in black and white. And then when they talk about nakshatras, they don't say anything about the rashis. They say, there's this fixed star and that fixed star, and this many degrees on each side of that fixed star is this field, and so it's undeniable that the Vedic definitions of nakshatras are stellar. Even the word nakshatra means the things in the heavens that don't move.
Sure.
And the word rashi means the segments of light, of rush. So at a conference like this, it's one selling point is to say, hey, this makes it more accessible, universal. But in my heart, what I really care about is this is really more Vedic, actually.
Right. It's a textual and a historical argument for you, and it's just like a side bonus that it happens to make it more palatable to like Western astrologers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm excited about that, and you've already met up with some other friends here. What else do you have going on, or is there anything else you're excited about, either in terms of the conference or things you're working on for the future?
Yeah. So at the last conference in Sedona, I got exposed to the fact that there's this thing called the Nakshatra Sutra that's in Taittiriya Brahmana, which is like a very, very legitimate old Vedic text.
Okay.
Which is like, how was this not brought out earlier? It was like boggling my mind. And Ernst Willem, who's a prominent Vedic astrologer, was translating, but I was like, this translation isn't right. Ernst, don't put out the translation. Let's work on it together.
Sure.
It's like, no, you just do your own. I'll put out mine. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do my own.
Okay.
So I've done it.
Wow, you finished translating it?
Yeah.
From Sanskrit?
Yeah.
Okay.
It needs to be edited a couple of times more, but within the definitely this year, I'll publish it.
Brilliant.
And it's amazing. So it's like each nakshatra has a 6-word mystical statement about it, but it's all in the same format, so it's very easy to understand. Every nakshatra needs this particular thing to function right, and if it doesn't get it, then that's how it messes up.
Okay.
like it'll have an excessive hunger for that thing, and every nakshatra has a thing. If it gets what it needs, it produces this
Okay.
successful end result.
Wow. Do you know what time frame that book was originally written in? Is it easy?
Yes,
Can
it's
you date it?
well, Taittiriya is one of the oldest sections of Yajurveda. So I would say, of course, there's always a traditional time frame and then like a
What-
scholastic time frame.
What are the two? What's the traditional time
It's
frame?
going to be, it's way more than 1,500 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
got
it could be as much as like 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that's exciting. Well, I'll have to have you on the podcast again to talk about that work when it comes out, because I've always wanted to hear more about the Nakshatras and to have more exposure to that to Western astrologers, since, like you said, I think that's one of the most appealing things about Indian astrology that, should be known more around the world.
Great. I'd love to.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks.
Chris.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you want to see more videos from UAC, then just make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again next time.